Hello, hello. I hope you're joining me again for a little bit of some crafty time using some of the gorgeous things that we have looked at in the mini catalog and the Sale-A-Bration brochure. If you're joining me live, just say hello or howdy so I know you're here. If you're watching later, just drop a comment and that will earn you an entry into the door prize draw for today. And so we're going to be doing a scrapbooking layout and we're going to be using the Sale-A-Bration prize documenting the day stamp set. We're also going to be using the um, Floral Delight 12 by 12 designer series paper. And is there anything else we're at? Well, we're adding in some cardstock as well. And we're going to be using some of the pool party cardstock as well as old olive on this. So we're using a little bit from this and a little bit from that, and we're going to be creating a layout. And I'm actually going to be scrapbooking something that just recently took place. So that's super fun too. So I've got a piece of 12 by 12 pool party here, and I'm just going to stick it down to my mat so that it doesn't move around on me while we're crafting, hopefully, unless I want it to. And stick it down, and then hopefully we'll see if we're all inside the frame. I think we're about as close as we're going to get. We might be a little off on the bottom, so you might not see right to the very bottom, but that's okay. And yes, we're still a little bit compressed, so it's going to look a little bit rectangular, but it is a 12 by 12. So we're starting out with the pool party cardstock in 12 by 12, and I want to come in with some of that gorgeous pattern paper from the Floral Delight, Delightful Floral Delight designer series paper, and this is the one that has a little bit of that bluish hint in the background, all the gorgeous flowers, and it's a nice largish size pattern. And this has been cut to 5 inches by 12 inches. I'm going to go ahead and add some adhesive on here, like so. And we are going to stick this down to our base page, about 2 inches in from the left. The back side has that tiny little leafy florally pattern, but I wanted a big bold pattern for this. It's going to get covered up quite a bit, so it doesn't hurt to have something bold going on if you're going to do that. So it's about 2 inches in, and I'm using the ruler on my mat to help me with that. And then from the same designer series paper collection, we're adding in a couple 1/4 inch strips of that old olive textural pattern paper that looks kind of like you've taken burlap and you've like inked it and pressed it down. And I think the best way for me to stick this down is just to grab some liquid glue. And I'm going to run a bead of liquid glue just to the side of my floral, like so. I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. Because if I tried to get my 1/4 inch adhesive onto those pieces of pattern paper, yeah, it's not going to work. And if I tried to put glue on this strip of paper, it would be everywhere. I would get it all over everything, and it would just be a mess. So it's a lot easier to put it down to your main project and then just stick your little strip into it. At least it usually is, but I'm having trouble. We're going to blame it on the Band-Aid. I had to add a little double-sided adhesive to keep my Band-Aid stuck on. It was trying to fall off earlier because it's on there pretty precariously. but later on I'll just go get a fresh Band-Aid. And then we're going to stick our other one down this side. And yes, I could have cut a piece that was 5.5 inches wide and then had a 1/4 of an inch hanging over on either side. But then I would have wasted a whole 5 inches of that gorgeous old olive paper. So economy of paper says just cut 2/4 inch strips, stick them on. So that's what I did. And then I want to come in with my photos. And my photos are ones that I just took. And we were visiting my parents, and I seem to have lost a photo. We were visiting my parents, and we took a day trip. Where have I put the photo? We took a day trip because my grandmother's photo was recently installed on the Wall of Honor at the Tyendinaga Reserve, where our family, part of our family, comes from. I have lost a photo. I don't know how I did that. I literally had it in my hand. And I don't know where it's gone. Anyway, her photo has been stuck onto the Wall of Honor with the other World War I and World War II veterans. My mother got that arranged, and so we went to see it, and you can see the Wall of Honor there. So these are indigenous veterans, and so right down there, the last one that's most recently been added was my grandmother, who has the distinction of being the first woman to be put onto the wall. And so that's super fun. And I'm just trying to figure out. There we go. I moved it over there. It got stuck in behind. So there's a little bit of a close-up of her photo there. Now I actually have the photo here. I could use, I could take my husband took a nice picture of the older photo. And so I want to have those on here, but I want to do a little bit jazzing up with them. So I'm going to double matte them. So first I'm going to come in with a layer of white, basic white cardstock. And my photos are a little bit smaller than a 4x3. So I'm going to come in with a 4x3 piece of basic white. Just going to adhere this on there and do my best to center it. It's always a little bit tricky because I cut there's only 1/8 of an inch. So you got to be careful. So I've got 3 of those, one for each photo. And of course I did not have these adhered or adhesived up ahead of time. Why would I do that? Let me grab my Take Your Pick tool for removing the backings here. There we go. Sometimes it's easier, especially with a little bit of a maiming, to use something like that to get the backings off, and then you don't end up bending your photos either, because I have a tendency to bend things when I try to peel the backings off. So by keeping it flat on my table and just using the Take Your Pick tool, that eliminates that whole part. And one more piece of basic white cardstock, 4x3. So my photos are 1/8 of an inch smaller. So that would make them 3 7/8 by 2 7/8. And there we go. But I want to double matte them. And because I really like the look of that old olive pattern paper that I've added on there, I decided to cut 3 old olive pieces of cardstock. And these are, let me just double check, 4 1/8 by 3 1/8. So now what we're going to do is we're going to add some adhesive. Why don't we do it all at once? We'll add some adhesive. And this time I'm going to kind of keep my adhesive in from the outer edges, just in case I decide to do anything. I don't know if I will, but if I want to tuck anything now or later, I can have that option if I don't go right to the edge. While we're at it, let's also add some adhesive on the back of the matting. Like so. I love how the little bit of white itself gets those photos to pop off of the sort of busy, large pattern that's in behind, but then adding the additional layer of the green will create even more separation. Oops. There we go. So let's center that on there. And now you can see there's even just that little bit more buffer between the pattern, because my photos are kind of busy, because I've got photos in my photos. There's a lot happening in them. And then this one, we've got photos and people. So just layers of busyness. So by having some buffer, it really helps you to be able to focus in on those. Now, I haven't seen any comments come up, so if you're watching, just say hello or howdy, so I know you hear it and see if the comments are working by putting in a comment during the videos. You also get an extra entry into the door prize draw. Okay, now I want to kind of space out my photos. So the top one here, I want to be about 1/2 inch, give or take, from the top and kind of centered in our space here. Okay. And then these two, I'm not going to stick them down just yet, but I want to kind of place them where I want them to be. So we'll have the bottom one about 1/2 inch up, and then this one is going to be a little bit tighter to that one, because what I want to bring in is another piece of the Designer Series paper, and this is in the pecan pie-ish color. And this has been cut to 8.5 by 2.5 inches. And what I want to do is I want to dovetail one end. So I'm going to come over here to the right end, and I'm going to snip in the center, visually, where my brain just says is the center. And I only went a maximum of 1/2 inch in. And then we're going to cut from the corner right to the top of that snip from either side. And that creates a lovely dovetail. And we're going to stick this down now to our layout. And I'm going to keep my adhesive somewhat in from the edge, because there will be tucking. I said before there might be tucking. Pretty sure there is going to be tucking with this one. And so what I want to do is I want to kind of have it line up with those and come about 1 inch in from the outside. And then I'm going to scooch those out of the way and hopefully lay this down straight-ish, and then we can add these. I just wanted to make sure that that little dovetailed piece got its spacing right before I stuck these down. And yes, I'm covering it up somewhat, and that's okay. All right. And this bottom one will cover up a little bit more than the one higher up. There we go. Now, I probably should have left this bit unstuck, because I am going to tuck some stuff under there. So I'm just going to lift it up quickly before it gets too settled in its space there. And I've got a couple pieces that I have cut out from the pattern papers. So I have this lovely yellow check. That's probably the Lemon Lolly or Delightful Daffodil, one of the two. The Lemon Lolly is probably the lightest bit of this color. And this one has been cut to 3.5 inches by 2 inches. And then this floral one is 4 inches by 2 inches. Now I'm not going to dovetail these ones, but I do want to kind of create a little bit of a tag out of them. So I'm going to come in with a little hole punch here. Punch a hole somewhere in the middle of the end of them. Like that. And I also think I'm going to round the edges. So when I do rounding, yes, you can use a corner rounder. Oh, hi, Deborah. Oh, you didn't get the notification. Oh, gosh. I posted it. Let me just double check. I posted it in the event, and I pinned it to the featured, but let me just double check to make sure all of that did happen. Yes, I believe so. I see it in the featured section. So hopefully everybody else finds it as well. That's why I like to say what time we're going to be coming back on, just so you know to be looking for it. So when I round my corners, I just use my scissors. And the way that I do that is I take my scissors and I start with my scissors parallel to my paper. And then I kind of get the scissors going, and then I roll the paper around the corner until I'm about parallel with the other side. And then I'm going to do the same thing. So I'm going to start parallel to the paper, and then I'm going to roll or pivot my paper, I guess is more accurate, until I get around to that side. And maybe it's not perfect, but it's good enough for me. And then we're going to do the same thing with this one. We're going to start parallel to the paper, pivot, 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 pivot. And so you're closing your scissors as you're pivoting, just so you know. And, oops. There we go. Alrighty, let's tuck these under there. Oh, I guess we should add a little bit of fiber to them, because if you're going to punch a hole in something, you might as well stick something in there. I don't want to make any weird comments about filling holes or anything, but let's grab some of this linen thread. I think you can find this in the annual catalog. And when it comes off the roll, it comes all crinkly. But if you just run the outside of your paper snips along it, like you would do for curling ribbon, although usually they use the blade part, just the outside though, and that will kind of take the crinkles or the little curlies out of those. So let's see. What do we want? How much is that? I guess a measurement will be good. About 9 inches. So let's make two. They're about 9 inches long. There we go. That was almost perfect length. And let's just fold it in half. And then we'll fold it in half again. Why not? And we'll put that loop through. And I like to put my loops through from front to back when I'm putting a tag on. It's all personal preference though. But I go from front to back, get those loops out, open them up, and then I take the remainder that's still stuck on the other side and I tuck that through the loop. And what that does is it gives you your ends coming out, and then it's got that little horizontal loop over the front. And I like that look better than having this double loop that's at the back showing. I don't know, it's just personal preference. And then we can trim these. I'm going to do it off to the side here a bit so I don't get little bits all over my page. But you can just trim it up, and there we go. We've got a nice little tuft. Let's do the same thing. We'll take our 9-inch piece, we'll fold it in half, and then fold it in half again. This is a little bit difficult with a Band-Aid. It wants to try and sniggle puss, but you know. Is that a word? You guys know that word? So front to back. There's lots of different ways you can add stuff on here. I could just stick it through and tie a knot too. It doesn't, there's lots of lots of ways to put some fiber onto your page. All right, we'll trim that one. There, see, I knew it would fall on there. All right, so let's go ahead and add our little plaid one first. And these are actually cut from the same piece. So I cut a 2-inch strip and then I just cut the length I wanted. And let's see, we're going to put this one kind of tucked in. I probably wanted it tucked underneath those other ones too, but we can't go under the other ones. So we'll just do this. I'm not going to stick it down all the way because this other one's going to get tucked under there. You know what? I'm going to trim it a little shorter because it was meant to go under there a little bit. So we're just going to trim about 1/2 inch off because those other ones are glued down. So there's no lifting those. It is what it is. So let's stick that about 1/2 inch. And then this one, let's trim. We'll trim a little bit off this one too. You know, sometimes when you lay out layouts, because I always recommend that you do this, you lay them out dry before you put any adhesive on and decide where everything is going to go, right? Let's stick about 1 inch of this one out. And then you stick it down, right? If you try to stick everything down before you figured it out, you're probably going to end up with things in places that you don't want them. Right? There we go. Nice little layered tags, a little bit of fiber, and you can kind of play around with that. I know some people like to cut a long one and put a little knot on the end and then kind of glue dot it down so it's kind of floaty around. But hey, Janet, you didn't get the notification either. Oh, you used the link from earlier. The link from earlier, like for the page? Or just to get to the YouTube channel. The way to get the notifications for everything that's being posted in the group is to go into the group and change your notifications to all posts. Because I'm the only one who's going to be posting in there. Comments you won't get. You don't have to get notifications for. But posts, you will get the notifications. And that's the way to do it. Chances are what's happening is you're going into the event. And in the event, there's a link to take you to the group. Because we're not working in the event. The event is just a placeholder on the Facebook page. Events are notoriously hard to work with. And so the group works out better for us. So that's all inconsequential, but good to know. All right, so then we want to bring in a title, and for our title, we're going to be using that Documenting the Day stamp set that I got as a reward from Sale-A-Bration for my $75 order. And what we're going to do is we're going to, and I've already done it ahead because we have limited time tonight. I've stamped the sentiment out with Old Olive. I stamped the word day. And then I have fussy cut around the individual letters. Now, let me show you the stamp. The stamp is actually, they're connected together. So if you want to stamp the whole word day, there's little connectors in the photopolymer. You can do it all nice and lined up. But if you want them to be separate, you can stamp them and then fussy cut them out. And then I also went ahead and I stamped out What a Wonderful with the Old Olive onto basic white cardstock. So I have now over here already done. I've got the word day. So I've got D. Well, that's a Y, but you know what I mean. I've got the word day and I have fussy cut it out. Now I did not fussy cut the centers of the D and the A. Not necessary. They're just tiny. It would be more faffing about than it's worth to do that. Not to say I've never done that kind of thing, but I didn't feel like it today. And then for the What a Wonderful, I stamped it out with the old olive, and then I actually fussy cut the shape. Now, it's not very often that you see me doing that. Quite often I'll just do a tag or, you know, a little banner. But because I like this nice sort of pecan pie pattern in the background, I decided I would fussy cut it out. And we're going to kind of overlap the lower photo, which is fine. We've just got just a little bit of the border, the matting there. And I think maybe we'll even pop them up with some dimensionals. So let's add some dimensionals on here. These are just the regular ones. And whew, I actually managed to get them off. Grab my tweezers because that's going to make life much simpler. And there's our D. Pop this on. Deborah wasn't in the actual event. Okay. Well, that's okay. As long as you're in the group. The group is where you'll find all the postings. So you'll find the games that have been posted, because by now there's a whole bunch of games that have been posted. The catalog scavenger hunt is in there. And also the videos will be posting in there. So now you know. Hey, Mom, nice to see you're watching. It looks like a die. Okay, well, you know me. I like my fussy cutting, and I've had a lot of practice. And practice doesn't make perfect, but it does make progress. So the more you practice fussy cutting, you make progress with it. Sometimes it's just that way with things, right? You just practice it, and it may never be perfect, but it gets better. All right. Now this one I don't think I want to pop up. I could, but I don't think I want to. Will this work? It might just. We'll just put a little bit at each end, I think, to avoid being too futzy. And peel that off. So my Grammie, that's what I called her, who is featured in this layout where she got her photo put on the wall at the reserve, the Wall of Honor. She was a staff sergeant in World War II. And so this photo here is of her in her uniform. And she was stationed in Kingston, Ontario, Canada. So now, remember when we were doing our catalog walkthrough, and I said somebody, not to mention any names, had fussy cut some bits and pieces from the pattern paper. So that someone was me. And so from different pieces of paper, the one that had the beautiful florals and the one that had all the little forsythia-like flowers, which are also florals. I don't know why I made a distinction. I have fussy cut out some bits and pieces for embellishing this page. And so I have a few of these ones and a few of these ones. And if you notice, I have 3 of these and 5 of these, which altogether makes an even number, but they're still odd numbers. So we're going to go with it. And we are going to use some liquid adhesive to stick these down, because that just makes sense to me. So we're just going to add a little bit of liquid adhesive there. And you might think that's a little high up, and it may end up being a little high up, but we're going to go ahead and stick that down there. And we'll stick that one there. And we'll stick this one here. Now I'm only adding a little bit of adhesive on either the stem or the center of the flowers. to get those on there. Yeah, that was a little too high up. Okay, you're going to come down. Come down off your high horse. Scooch down. Yeah. Get a little friendly down here. There we go. That's better. Okay. And then we're going to add some over here as well. You know what I went on and on about, how you should, you know, stick things down and see where they go and blah, blah, blah. And here I am just willy-nillying it here. Yeah. Let's add some of this in here. And we'll add a little bit of this here. Just adding a little bit of glue. A little dab will do ya. Is that how it goes? And you don't want to add so much. My Band-Aid's coming off. You don't want to add so much liquid adhesive that it smushes everywhere, right? Now, liquid adhesive is nice because if you need to make an adjustment, you can. So that helps. There we go. Little adjustment, little nudge here and there. There we go. Got those stuck down. And then I wanted to add, let's grab from the stack of embellishments up here, the antique pearls. Now, these are the ones that were paired up with the storybook collection, but I think they're going to look nice on this layout. And so let's add a little bit of blingity bling to our layout. Let's see. We'll add, there's sort of large, medium, and small here. So let's add a little trio here by our title. And then we can add a couple in amongst our little branchies up here. And then maybe let's add another bit there. And then maybe down here. Yeah, like that. Fun. All right, so there we go. We have now created our delightfully documented layout. We started out with our gorgeous cardstock background, adding the delightful Floral Delight designer series. I gotta look up that name. I will post the name when I post the picture. And all those fun pattern papers. We created a dovetailed banner. We created a couple little tags just using the designer series paper. We stamped with that documenting the day stamp set to create our title on there. And then, of course, some fussy cut florals for embellishments and a little bit of those antique pearls as well for a little bit of shine, a little bit of fun. All right, I hope you guys enjoyed seeing that come together. And let me see. We are at 6:22 at the moment. We'll be back on at 6:30 for another crafting event. So before you jump out, remember, go to the group, the Catalogue launch party group, and then you will find pinned in the featured section the link for the next video. All right, we'll see you then. Toodaloo. Bye.